In Havana Harbor on February the 15th, 1898, a mysterious explosion sank an American cruiser, the USS Maine. 266 officers and sailors were killed. Cuba was a Spanish colony 90 miles from Florida. Although there was no evidence of Spanish involvement, cries of revenge against Spain swept across America. But President William McKinley, who would lead America into the 20th century, was reluctant to go to war.
President McKinley is a silver-tongued orator, very popular, sweet man, but a very indecisive man. They used to say that McKinley's mind is like an unmade bed. You have to make it up for him before he can use it.
Much more eager for war and foreign adventure in general was McKinley's young Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Theodore Roosevelt.
Theodore Roosevelt was a great believer in outdoorism, a great believer in activity. He was vigorous, you know. You can imagine him sort of taking cold showers all the time. And he carried all this in character into his politics. He was a great believer in American power, in American imperialism, a great believer in war. War is one of the highest forms of human endeavor, he wrote.
With Roosevelt and others lobbying intensely for it, Congress declared war on Spain in April of 1898. Roosevelt left his job in Washington to join the campaign in Cuba.
Theodore Roosevelt organizes his old cowboy buddies from the West into the Rough Riders and goes to Brooks Brothers and gets a uniform made and gets out a big saber and goes down there and storms San Juan Hill.
It took the United States less than 3 months to defeat Spain in what one American official called a splendid little war. The spoils of war for the United States were the Spanish colonies of Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. The United States was now an empire. At the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York in September 1901, President McKinley was killed by an assassin with no particular cause beyond his own dissatisfaction. Theodore Roosevelt, by then Vice President, became America's leader.
He's really the first president who sees the United States as a global power. America's century begins really with Roosevelt.
Theodore Roosevelt was an imperialist. He actually gloried in the term, and he wanted the United States to be a real empire, exercising great power in the same ways that the great European empires did.
Roosevelt's design included linking the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans by building a canal through the Isthmus of Panama in northern Colombia. Such a canal would greatly facilitate shipping and ensure America's strategic hold on the region. But when the Colombians refused to cooperate, Roosevelt encouraged the Panamanians to revolt against their Colombian rulers.
Within a couple of days, we recognized the new independent Republic of Panama, and within another few days, we had concluded a treaty with them. Roosevelt said, when other people dithered and when other people debated, I acted. I took action.
Construction of the era's engineering wonder began in 1904. Alfred Bingham visited the canal site as a child.
I can remember riding along in this car on the bottom of the canal. A lot of big machinery and a lot of trains going up and down, taking the diggings out. And there were marvelous big structures that were to be the locks.
The building of the canal itself was the greatest engineering feat that had ever been done up to that time. And it's all of the great power and technology and energy of this age harnessed there. There's a wonderful photo of Theodore Roosevelt at the controls of one of these gigantic steam shovels that they used to dig out the ditch. The Panama Canal is a wonderful expression not only of him, but in many ways of America of that time.
In mid-August of 1914, Americans celebrated the opening of the Panama Canal, a triumph of both technology and man's will over nature. An engineering feat as impressive as the pyramids, the canal would also become the symbol of America's entrance into the international